so beautiful to be together with you all. Starting as usual with one of the questions that's come in advance from our online internet-based audience. Then we'll open it up for any questions that anyone here might have. In meditation, when we become breathless, what should be done to sustain and prolong the state of breathlessness? And this was asked by Vichita. One of the things that you'll notice when you start to meditate, start to practice meditation, is you might go into it, your technique to go in might be an awareness of your breath. And you follow the breath as it flows in and flows out. And maybe you draw the awareness of the breath low in the abdomen as I direct people to. Maybe you follow the flow of the breath right here, just at the very tip of your nose above your lip. Wherever you follow that flow, you'll notice something very interesting. Is even if your breath is the object of your meditation, you will reach a point, and it doesn't take very long, but you'll reach a point as you get deeper into meditation in which it seems like the breath has stopped. Whether you go into meditation with a mantra meditation or an awareness-based meditation, all of the different ways in that I've done, I've had the same experience, and it's something that has come up a lot. So I think that probably most forms of meditation, or many of them at least, will give that experience. It's a very beautiful state because it's not just that it feels like the breath has stopped, but it feels almost like who you are as a separate being has ceased to exist. It's a stopping, a stillness of the individual self into a merging. And it's a very beautiful state. Now, first of all, it's important to realize your breath has not actually stopped. You're not actually breathless. Because that's a state that can scare a lot of people. And people will immediately in it sort of panic and feel like, oh my God, I've stopped breathing, I'm going to die. And the mind will play that with you. Better come out of this deep meditation because otherwise you're going to die. The breath doesn't actually stop. So that's the first piece, is don't worry about it. It's a beautiful state. Allow it to be there. Allow yourself to experience it. The second piece is, in order to prolong it, it's a bit of an irony because the moment the mind kicks in and says, oh, now I'm in that beautiful state, it's gone. The moment the mind kicks in and says, oh, yeah, this state, you lose it. The way to prolong it is to keep doing exactly what you did to get there the first time. So if your meditation is a meditation on the breath, for example, when you hit that breathless state, allow the awareness to stay there. You're not changing the breath, so it's not that suddenly you start deep breathing. All you're doing is allowing the awareness to stay anchored in the breath, even as still and seemingly non-existent as it may be. But keep that awareness anchored in the breath. The moment the mind games go, oh yeah, that great state, I guarantee you lose it. And that's okay. Bring it back. But bring it back not by saying, oh, how do I get that state again? Bring it back exactly the way it came the first time. Just bring the awareness back to the breath or back to your mantra, whatever you're using in your meditation. And then when it arises, which it does automatically and naturally, if you can keep the mind from kicking in and telling you a story about it, either a good story, yeah, this state, or a scary story, you're going to stop breathing and die. If you can just keep the mind from telling you a story, the state will stay. And then you'll lose it. A thought will arise. Your knee will itch. Something will happen. You'll lose it. And then it'll come back. It's one of the many states that arise when we meditate. And so just allow it. Notice it. Like with anything in meditation, don't try to change it. Don't analyze it. Don't tell a story about it. Don't judge it. Don't criticize it. Don't yearn for it. Just notice it. And keep meditating. Great. Other questions that anyone here might have? Yeah. Just come up to the mic.
This question is from a dear friend of mine who wants to know, how do we heal from wounds caused by abandonment?
How do we heal from wounds caused by abandonment? The same way that we heal from wounds that are caused by all of the other things that should not happen to us. Whether it's abuse, whether it's betrayal, whether it's abandonment, physical abandonment, actual abandonment, or just emotional abandonment. The same way that we heal from all of these things that we experience in our childhood and then carry with us in our life. First of all, we acknowledge it, we notice it. This is the aspect of insight, witnessing, noticing. We don't pretend it's not there. We don't blame it on someone else. We notice it. Fear of abandonment. Because of course, those of us who have been abandoned grow to fear it. You would think in a way it would be the opposite, like it's already happened, so you know what that's like, so you don't fear it. But it actually ends up, if you experienced abandonment in childhood, you grow up fearing it, because what you do on a subconscious level is you look for others to fill the place of the one who abandoned you. And again, whether it was a physical abandonment, or whether it was a parent, for example, who was physically present, but emotionally unavailable. Maybe they were an alcoholic, maybe they were on drugs, maybe they were mentally unstable, maybe they were just struggling and suffering so much with their own lives that they just couldn't be there, present for you. Whatever it is. We then move through our lives trying to fill those holes. And when we find someone or something that seems to fill it, we become terrified again of abandonment. Now, on a spiritual perspective, what do? You just notice it. See, I have this fear of abandonment. Okay. I also have freckles. I mean, it's like that. Brown hair, brown eyes, fear of abandonment. Like these are the aspects of the physical package that I'm here in this lifetime. This size, this shape, this gender, this nationality, and a tendency toward depression or anxiety or this fear of abandonment or whatever it may be. So the first step is always noticing. It's the first step spiritually. Being aware, being present, witnessing, what we call sakshi consciousness, that witness. We notice it. We don't run from it. We don't push it under a carpet. We don't try to drink it away or smoke it away or eat it away or gamble it away or shop it away. We just notice it. The second step is we try to understand where it has come from. Sometimes we can do that, sometimes we can't. Abandonment, massive abandonment, you're going to know exactly where it came from. Abuse, you'll know where it came from. But a lot of the stuff that impacts us a lot when we're children, we don't move through our lives naturally, automatically knowing where it came from. We may have a sense that we're not good enough. That sort of at the core, we're wrong, we're lacking in some fundamental way. And we may not know exactly where that came from. We may not necessarily have a memory of a mother or a father or someone saying, "You are worthless." So don't drive yourself crazy trying to understand where it came from, but use some introspection, use some contemplation. Just watch it and notice, where did this arise from? Who was the first person? Where did I hear this? What makes me think this? You're ugly, you're worthless. Where did that come from? You're stupid, you'll never be anything. Where did that come from? You don't deserve love. Where did that come from? Just allow yourself to notice it. And again, some of it you'll know right away. Oh, abandonment. This was because my mom died when I was young, or my father abandoned me. Some might be clear, some might not be. But try to have as much insight and understanding as you can, because a lot of these internal darknesses, you could say, seem very, very, very big and powerful when we don't know what they are. The analogy for me that I always love is of the Wizard of Oz. It was actually something given to me when I was young and I was struggling, and a beautiful, beautiful woman said to me, a mentor, I was probably maybe 15, maybe 16 at the time. And she said to me, she said, you know, you have one of the purest, lightest souls that I've ever seen. Now at 15, 16, like I had no idea what she was talking about, but I knew that it was really good, and it felt really good when she said that. But I had always felt like I was wrong and full of darkness rather than light due to all of that which I had been through. And she intuited that. I mean, she didn't know all my story, but she said to me, she said, you know, all of that stuff inside, she said, you remember when Toto pulled back the curtain and they saw the wizard? And it turned out that he wasn't actually this huge, big guy, but he was actually this little guy with a projector. She said, that's what's going on inside of you. You've got this stuff. It's small. It's history stuff, it's ego stuff, it's mind stuff, it's psychological stuff. But it's projecting itself onto your entire psyche, convincing you that it is you. Like the wizard terrorized, you know, the entire city through the projector. She said, you've got to pull back the curtain. And when you can do that, And that's why the second step is that step of trying to understand, where did it come from? It's that pulling back of the curtain. Oh, I have a fear of abandonment because this happened. I don't think I'm worthy of love because of this. I doubt myself because of that. And just you notice, because like the wizard is really small, in retrospect, when we're in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and later, looking back on someone who did something to us or said something to us when we were young, suddenly we're able to see them as just troubled human beings trying to make their way through life. You know, most of our parents, when most of us were born, were in their 20s. I mean, I know mine were in their mid-20s when I was born. Now, you look at people in their mid-20s and it's like they're babies. But from the child perspective, they're everything. And so we move through the world with this pain that arises from that which was done to us, purposely by accident. From someone who, in retrospect now, in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, we look back on and we're like, oh my God, they were babies. They were so scared, they were confused, they didn't know what they were doing. And it takes a lot of the sting out of it. Doesn't make it go away, but it takes that sting out, because now it hasn't been said by the all-knowing, omnipotent, omniscient, divine being that we as young children see our parents as. But now it's been done by a young, struggling person in their mid-20s or 30s who we realize, oh my God, the poor thing, so confused. So that's the second step. The third step is you let it go. But you've got to go through the first two steps first, because otherwise it becomes denial and repression and kind of spiritual bypass, like I haven't actually looked at it. But the third step then is you let it go, like, okay, I know where this came from. Even if I can't necessarily picture the exact person who said it, it certainly came from somewhere. It wasn't divine truth that, God got written in the sky. Someone, somewhere, I took this in. And then we let it go, because we realize it isn't true. And it has nothing to do with who I am. So if I've been abandoned, the pain, the trauma says I am unworthy. Because if I weren't unworthy, they wouldn't have left. There is something fundamentally wrong with me. Again, because if there weren't, they wouldn't have left me. Therefore, I am undeserving of love. In some cases, I'm even undeserving of occupying my place on planet Earth. And we start to be able to take apart these untruths when we understand the other person's karmic package. And this is where we recognize, oh, okay, it was this person that they were going through their own karmic journey. It wasn't about me. It was actually about them. I just got sort of caught up in their karmic journey. And so we let it go. Because if we don't let it go, we can't move on. And we can't actually blossom into the fullness of who we're meant to be. I mean, look, you've really only got two choices in life. You hold on or you let go. And if you're not ready to let go, that's okay. Hold on to your anger for a while. Hold on to your pain. But what you're going to discover, I guarantee, is the end result is misery. It's never like, oh, thank God I held on to this pain because now I feel so much better. It feels awful. We recreate the abandonment over and over and over again. And we suffer from it over and over and over again. And until you heal the primary wound, you're going to keep recreating situations where you are abandoned and you suffer. So we have to let it go. And again, this is true whether it's abandonment, whether it's abuse, whether it's betrayal, whatever the harm that has been done to us is. The formula is the same. Hold on until you're able to realize that holding on is keeping you stuck. That holding on is what is preventing you from living in freedom and joy. And then you realize, why should I somehow be deprived of a life of freedom and joy because that person lived without integrity, without sincerity, without values, without love, without patience, without care? That's their karmic package. Why should I keep suffering? Because of the way someone else acted. It's the emotional sort of hitting bottom. You say, all right, I'm done suffering for the sins that somebody else did. And so we let go. Yeah, good. Other questions? Yeah, come to the mic.
Namaste.
Namaste.
My name is Irina and I'm from Denmark. And I have maybe technical question. I was born as a left-hand person in such way that my left hand is very strong. I write with left hand. And when I meditate, so for my natural, left hand should be upper. But in all pictures and in all scripture and in all Purana, it's the opposite. So should I suppress my, I will say, born and my brain, in fact, yeah, because it's a brain in different. What is your opinion? Your opinion. Thank you.
Beautiful question. So much more important than the position in which you meditate is the mind that is meditating. There are a few things that are very important. The spine should be straight because there is a flow of energy, Kundalini energy, other energies that flow through the body. And when the spine is straight, it's much easier for those energies to flow. The breath should be able to flow clearly and freely. So you don't want to be, sucking in your stomach or contracting the stomach or sitting like this in which, you can't actually breathe properly. So the breath should be able to flow. You should be stable. You shouldn't be having to use too many of the muscles of the body to hold the body up. There should be an aliveness. I'm not using the couch to hold me up. I'm sitting. An aliveness in the body, but not a rigidness, not a stress, not a tension. Should be balanced left to right, front to back, not leaning too much to one side. Beyond that, the rest becomes mostly preferences and a bit of icing on the cake. So we know that there are certain mudras, certain hand positions that we meditate in. They're helpful. But the most important thing is the mind. And if for you, being able to sit and your left hand goes on top, and the mind therefore is able to be calm and in peace, by all means put your left hand on top. In fact, there's some traditions, in fact, that have it one way for women, one way for men. In the Bhagavad Gita, here's for me where I take teachings. Bhagavad Gita, 700 verses, a scripture for pretty much everything in life that ails you. From your job to your family, to your emotions, to your mind. Like, the Bhagavad Gita is the answer to everything. And as you can imagine, a lot of it is dedicated to the practice of meditation, yoga, because through these practices we free ourselves of suffering. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna spends several lines talking about asana. Now, when we talk about asana, asana is the posture. Whether it's Trikonasana in my triangle pose, or it's Shirshasana, I'm standing upside down on my head, whether I'm here in Sukhasana or Padmasana, different asanas of sitting. But in the Bhagavad Gita, the lines that he speaks about asana actually have nothing to do with the posture you're sitting in, and he means only the thing upon which you're sitting. So like you see, I have this thing that I sit on, right? So the other meaning for the word asana is actually just the thing you sit on. And he spends several lines talking about it should be not too thick, not too thin, not too soft, not too hard, what it should be made of. And then he says, now that you are established in asana, meaning simply you are sitting down. Your cushion is not too high or too low, it's not too soft or too hard. You are sitting down. You are ready to begin the practice of yoga. And then he goes on to speak about working with the breath, working with the mind. He never comes back to anything regarding make sure that your leg is like this, your arm is like that. And to me that's really important, because I really do believe that pretty much all of that which I need for my life is there in that book. It's not that there isn't great benefit to be found from, I certainly read lots of books around, health and nutrition and a whole bunch of other things that are helpful and good to know if you want to live a healthy life. But the real important stuff, the spiritual practice stuff, for me, that's core. And I feel like if it were really important, if it mattered, if you were going to be able to access divine energies much more powerfully in one position than another, he would have mentioned it. Yeah. Beautiful. Any other questions? Yeah. We'll take this as our last question tonight.
I want to know that how we come to know that our energy is going up and our Kundalini is waking. So what are the symptoms and how we come to know?
Great. So some people can actually feel the movement of the energy. Some people don't experience it like that. It's certainly not necessary that you do experience it like that. I have felt it sometimes, not at other times. Some people I've spoken to feel it a lot. Some people I've spoken to have never felt it in a physical sense, just in a spiritual sense. So I've come to to realize there's no right way of experiencing it in yourself. But the symptoms, as you say, the way to know that it's actually rising, are things like you're much more grounded and anchored. You're much less impacted by things in the world around you. There is now a flow of energy within you. It's like you are now connected to the source directly. So someone outside of you says, you're an idiot. Now, before that, you would be like, oh. Or you'd be like, oh. You know, whether you are going to act outward or take it in. But once those energies start rising, you've got a source within that you're no longer impacted by it. You're drinking essentially from a different well. You no longer need that which is coming at you from outside for yourself. See, if we don't access that internal energy, then we need to get energy from other people. And if the energy that people give us is positive, we feel positive. If the energy people give us is negative, we feel negative. But ideally, you access that energy internally so that we don't become energetically dependent on others. And working with Kundalini energy, for example, is a way of accessing the energy within ourselves, in the physical body, in the subtle bodies, that keep us much more grounded and anchored. So you're much less likely to lose yourself. You have more energy. I mean, one of the things that nobody can believe when they spend time around Pujya Swamiji is what does he eat for breakfast? You know, I mean, where does he get that kind of energy? People can't believe it. At 72 years old, you know, I mean, the few hours he sleeps a night, how he manages mental energy, physical energy, it's a source. It's a source of being connected to energy that isn't about the food you eat or the sleep you get or the vitamins you take, but it's a different well of energy that you're connecting to. You notice that you are able to see in a different way. So when we speak about opening the third eye, for example, and as that energy rises and rises through our chakras, through the energy centers of our body and rises up to the third eye, you start to be able to see truth. So we begin on a very physical level. This one's fat, this one's thin, this one's tall, this one's short, this one's beautiful, this one's ugly. We then start to get a little deeper and we start to look at them on, emotional levels. But as the third eye opens, we start to be able to see people and ourselves and everything as spirit. So you'll notice as you look around, as you look at yourself, if you look at people, you look at animals, you look at nature, that you start to be able to see a oneness in it because that eye is opening. So those are a few of the many, many ways of knowing. But if you're meditating, if you're praying, if you're doing seva, if you're seeking grace, it'll happen. Don't worry about it. I mean, don't treat it like you get on the scale every day to see, am I gaining weight or losing weight on my diet or my muscle building. It's not like, where's my, Kundalini today? Just have faith. Have faith that the practices that have been given to us they work. And they may work at different speeds for different people. You may experience it in different ways. But it'll work. Yeah. Good.
That is the reason I want to know the symptoms, basically that the penetration on the crown chakra and on to the forehead. Is it how could I know that it is going into the right direction, and whether it could be dangerous if it opens without without the guidance of any guru?
Don't worry, don't worry. If these things are happening in a natural way,
Yeah, it's natural.
from prayer, from meditation, from yoga, from seva, from divine surrender, don't worry. You're going to be fine. Nothing's going to be dangerous. These energies, this is the truth of who we are. There's nothing to be afraid of. Sometimes people enter very, very powerful practices, specific practices, much more than what I've just mentioned, that are able to activate energies in very powerful ways. And if they do them not in the right way, not under the guidance of a teacher, yeah, you can end up having internal challenges. But it's not dangerous. It's not like your head's going to blow open and, something like that. But what I would say is if you're having doubts about it, if there's something happening that's scary to you, ask. Come into the presence of a holy being who you trust, who you have faith in,
Yes,
and ask. They'll be able to tell you. They'll be able to see and to tell you. But what I know is, again, unless you're doing really esoteric practices that are not part of mainstream spiritual meditation, yoga, etc., nothing to worry about. And if you are doing really, really esoteric types of practices, yeah, make sure someone's teaching you how to do them the right way. I mean, you can hurt yourself even doing advanced pranayams the wrong way. So working with the energies of the body beyond just tapping into them spiritually and meditating upon them. Learn from someone who knows what they're doing. But if what you're doing is just meditating and praying and surrendering, it's all perfect.
I'm just doing mala and...
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wonderful. Then it's all good. It's all good. Allow it to happen.
And concentrating on breath. That's
Beautiful. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Wonderful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening and a beautiful day to our family joining us online. And I just want to remind everyone again that here at Parmarth we have a full day of beautiful activities that are open to everyone, no charge, everything's on a donation basis, of yoga and meditation and philosophy and a beautiful morning fire ceremony. So in addition to the sacred Ganga Arti and Satsang that we're sitting in, just allow yourself to really take advantage of all of the different offerings so that your time here is as nourishing and nurturing and filling as it possibly can be. And I look so forward to seeing you all again tomorrow.